You're listening to Lender Lounge with Kevin Kim, a podcast dedicated to the private lending industry. I'm Kevin Kim, and my goal is to sit down with key figures in the private lending industry to talk about their business and their personal lives. We'll get their takes on market conditions, the industry at large, and their personal stories. Overall, I really want to learn more about how they started and grew their businesses. So whether you're a lender, a borrower, a vendor, an investor, or anyone just interested in learning more about private lending, this podcast is definitely for you. Thanks for tuning in and enjoy this week's episode of Lender Lounge with Kevin Kim. Nadel is a proud sponsor of Lender Lounge. Nadel helps connect companies to end users through branded items, custom items, and creative solutions. They have collaborated with established, globally known enterprises and the most exciting up-and-coming companies to create unparalleled branded experiences. With attention to the smallest details, Nadel helps you pursue your biggest goals. Their founder, Jack Nadel, first began creating branded merchandise in Culver City, California in 1953. With Nadel, products and experiences are transformed into memorable brand moments. For some, that means providing something immediately useful, like the perfect notepad or eco-friendly water bottle. For others, it's more intangible. They're creating something of sentimental value to take your breath away. Whatever you're looking for, Nadel can make it happen. Perfect for trade show giveaways, new hire gifts, awards, and more. For inquiries, please reach out to Ben Goldberg at ben.goldberg@nadel.com. Hey everyone, before we jump into this week's episode, I have a little giveaway contest I want you all to participate in. From January 23rd to February 27th, 2023, we're going to give away a pair of AirPods if you enter to win via the Apple Podcast app. How do you enter to win? You leave a review or comment, and you also leave us a 5-star rating. We'll enter you automatically, and you'll be entered to win this pair of Apple AirPods. So please join us in this little giveaway contest. We hope to hear from you. Thank you very much. Hey guys, Kevin Kim here for another episode of Lender Lounge with yours truly, Kevin Kim. Thank you for joining us today. Today we are on Zoom and we are interviewing my friend and colleague, Tricia Mitchell with Archwest. You squeezed us in on the schedule. We figured it out. We figured it out.
So glad to be here too. Thanks for having me.
So we always start with, who are you? What do you do? Tell us a little bit about yourself and Archwest. We'll get started that way.
Yeah, I'm Tricia Mitchell. Again, so happy to be here. I am the president and chief operating officer of Archwest Capital. Archwest Capital is a national lender that helps investors either want to fix and flip, bridge, or hold and rent real estate across the nation. So very happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Love it. Love it. So
yeah,
you and I have known each other for a while because
we have.
You were at another company before Archwest.
Yes.
With a similar name.
Yeah.
So give us a little bit about your background because you're relatively young. Like there's like,
Thank you.
People are like,
thank you.
I was shocked when I first met you. Like, wait, hold on. You're Tricia? Like you're so young.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Tell us about your background and
Sure.
and how you got into this space.
Right. So yes, I kind of fell into private lending. Similar to you guys, like have a legal background, always knew that I wanted to be a lawyer, seventh grade. My dad was a homicide detective. I was around district attorneys. I was around the law my whole life. And I was like, that's what I want to do. Went to law school. And then I had on-campus interviews with Gene Clark, who has always been the chief legal officer for like all the companies that they've created and managed and operated. And he interviewed me for an interview. And I love this story because he didn't pick me. He picked someone else. That person ended up dropping out after a couple of weeks. And they said, hey, are you still interested? And I was like, yes, like I want to try something new. Corporate law sounds really fun. And I never left. University of San Diego.
Oh,
yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's right on the street. I like that.
Yeah,
nice.
Exactly. So fell into it, started working from the bottom. I was an intern and I've been together with the same guys for over a decade now.
So you've been in this game just as long as I have. You basically the same time. I'm like 10 years now in this sector. Nice. Now. I was doing other stuff before I came here, but like, I've been in this role. So wait a minute. So what was the first company that because I don't even remember the name of the first company. Was it?
So it's 5 Arch Funding Corp.
That was Five Arch. So that was 10 years ago.
2012.
Okay.
And the first thing I was doing was running due diligence on our investors, taking a look at their projects, understanding the flip, because Gene has a very like Mr. Miyagi style of teaching you law. It's do you understand the business? Do you understand the goal? Like, what is the clientele trying to do?
Right.
And so he wanted me to kind of learn that from the ground up. So I started in processing. I was in law school doing like due diligence on our investor base, and kind of grew from there.
So two all summer, you're doing you're doing diligence on borrowers. All right.
That's right.
All right.
That's right. So learned it from the bottom up. 2012, Five Arch Funding Corp. They created it. They managed it. We did about $3 billion of direct origination, 5,000 units, grew it really, really big. And then our friends at Redwood Trust purchased Five Arch in 2019. Fantastic firm, like the best people. And then we looked around and we said, we want to do it one more time. They're very entrepreneurial. And so they said, we're going to do it again. And that's when they launched Archwest Capital. Kind of focused on similar things, but certainly a firm that we're super proud of, and we just created from the bottom up. Yeah, last year.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, we got the phone call. I was like, wait a minute, I know this name.
Yes,
I've heard of this person before.
Yeah, people always ask, like, where is the Arch from? So Sean Miller, he's our CEO, and one of their first companies with 3 Arch Financial Services. They did a lot of special asset work back in the day before Five Arch. They had Arch Bay Capital, and just because of the success, he has now a superstition that Arch is going to give us good luck. So got to keep it in the name. That's right.
But that's really, really cool. So interesting kind of fact though, is like this market is, people in your position and kind of the executive level we've been seeing a lot of lateral movement in the sector.
Right.
In the past 2-3 years.
Right.
You've been with the same team, group of people, right?
Yep.
And you guys came back. So was there some downtime after 19 and then you guys came back, or like, was it?
I wish, because I would love to have taken some time off, but no, it's just one of those hit the ground running. I mean, building a direct origination platform it's a lot, right?
Yeah.
So you've got to have knowledge in how to get it started, your loan documents, your legal regulatory requirements, your licenses, all different in every single state, right? And my background is in the law. So, there was a lot that we wanted to do. We wanted to also get the Archwest name trademarked. And so the fun part of my job is I get to pair up with people like you guys, like the Gerasi firm, or people like Bradley Arant, Bolton Cummings, or Tannen Tucker. And I get to kind of learn from like the best lawyers in the business on how to do things the right way. And I love that. So for me, I got to pair up with like the smartest people, learn from it, grow from it. And I was just ready to kind of implement that into a new firm. So law is like the best because you really can understand what your guardrails are, but it allows you kind of to make a business grow. Right. So
people forget about that. And lawyers forget about that. And I think that comes from your training with Gene.
Yes.
It's a good thing to think about is like a lot of attorneys don't think like business people, and understanding what problems you're solving for who
exactly
your client is, the company. Right. And so, but let me ask you this though, like, so most people in your position would have headed toward like a, general counsel position or chief legal officer position, but now you are COO and president. How'd that happen?
Yeah. Total natural progression would have been, I was an intern, an associate attorney, senior associate attorney, vice president. Like I literally grew all the way up.
Yeah.
And then they said, look, you have an opportunity. You've seen it all, because in my law career, I started to do real estate transactions, loan documents. I was writing substitution provisions. I was writing subordination agreements by myself. I was looking at leases, you name it, on the real estate transaction side. But then I was also getting a lot of exposure to what I love, which is capital markets, right? So working with street banks on master repurchase facilities, warehouse lines of credit, creating SPVs myself. We worked on a mini securitization of assets. I worked on single family rental securitization, and I just fell in love with not only how we can originate the deal, but how we can manage that asset post origination.
Right.
See the success of our clientele, look at what they've done, package it up and like make it even better. And so because I got to see it from the very beginning to the very, very end, they said, well, you could also just run the operations of the firm. And I looked at myself and I was like, well, I can apply all that legal knowledge, right? So I can hear like Tom Hodja, like, do you have the lending license? Do you have the referral fee based?
Right.
Are you lending to individuals in Georgia? Like all that stuff just can get put into an ops based role. Sean had said something to me 8 years ago when he's very much like a mentor. And he said to me, look, not all the time you're going to be handed opportunities. So sometimes you have to make the jump and do it. And so
were
I kind
you
of took that
reticent
to heart.
at the time? Were you kind of like,
I was scared. Yeah. I mean, it's a heavily regulated space. I tend to kind of grow my way up and like, I have to be 100% confident in what I'm doing to do it. And I said to myself, you know what? I was like, I have the best team around me who are going to help me and collaborate with me. And I was like, you know, I can do this. Like, even though I'm young, like I can get this done. Like I know how to do this. So,
and that's an interesting conversation to have. Cause like what you said also with your team. Cause like the person that was telling us, don't do that, you know, the attorney on the team is now telling us how to run operations.
Right.
So like, talk about, for me, like to me, like I want to know more about like that transition, because we've had that happen internally here at the law firm. Like Nima goes from like, you know, an attorney. Now he's not really an attorney anymore. He's really, you know, kind of helping our operations team, leading them, leading lightning docs and that kind of stuff. It's a different type of position to be in. And I see the struggles that he's going through. I'd like to hear more about, you know, your struggles.
You know what it is? Yeah, it is. It's getting into the trenches. Right. So like literally when we would trade or when we would do stuff, I was there with the custodian team, like packaging up. I was an attorney then. So I didn't have to do any of this stuff. Like, but I was like, no, like I need to understand what the lawyers write in these contracts and how it impacts the operations. Like, can I deliver the custodial documents in 5 days? I don't know. Why don't I actually help and like package those documents together and send it to the custodian? Right. So it's getting in the trenches, and that also builds a lot of respect and rapport with the people around you because they're like, oh, that's kind of cool. She's not only helping us do our job, but she's now understanding what we have to go through. And so for me, it's just like the team that I'm surrounded with. So Archwest is really unique because even though we started last year, the team that we pulled back together have been together for a really long time. The women that, you know, the women that run my closing department, I've been with for 6 years. The people that are my head underwriters, I've been with 6 years. My controller and I have been together for 8 years. So, you know, that's a family. That's truly a family. So for me, progressing my career was really helped by the people around me. They were familiar. They were helpful. We're very collaborative. We're very, very supportive. So that certainly is what dictated my career for sure.
Well, so let's, I want to kind of get there a little bit more because like the interesting fact pattern there to me is like, there's a lot of interesting dynamics going on, right? Because you're now, so you're telling yourself, okay, I'm in charge of operations. I got to learn how to do this stuff,
right? Because
if I don't know how to do it, so I can't do the process and procedures and that kind of
right.
But you also, I don't know how. I don't want to be. I don't. This is kind of weird. You're young, right?
Thank you.
You're young, and you're in a male-dominated industry, and you're a woman, and like that must have been very challenging. Because now, you know, sometimes, especially with capital markets, sometimes, you know, it's not easy, you know,
it's not, it's not easy. It's certainly not easy, but, so I wrote an article in the Originate report, right? Women helping women.
Yeah.
And and thank you, by the way, for giving people an opportunity to really talk about that topic. It's so important. Like you said, it's a very male dominated industry. Like I am very much accustomed into walking into a room and it being all men.
Yeah.
And
they're all a certain kind of guy too. There's usually
they
finance
all want to
bros.
start the conversation with football. Always. Whether it doesn't even like brokers, borrowers, it's a very male dominated industry, period, from all
aspects. A lot of blue suits, a lot of brown shoes.
A lot of them. And the question's always like, oh, where are you from? Ohio? Oh yeah. Okay. So how are the Browns doing this year? And it's kind of like, you have to be conversant in it. You have to be approachable. And
right.
Funny enough, I study football sometimes, like just so that I can just so that I can keep up. But being around people, even men, who support women and what they do and judge them by what their output is,
right?
That's the kind of people that I've really been around. And so, like Sean, he has a very powerful wife. She's a very smart attorney. And like, he's been surrounded by powerful women all his life. So for him, taking a chance on someone like me, a very young woman, very driven person, was kind of like, yeah, you can do it. Like, I know you can. Right. So it's men also giving women that chance is really important, I think. But then because now I'm in this role, it's my responsibility to kind of make sure this is a culture of diversity and inclusion, right? So again, the women that run my closing department, I mean, they're closing fix and flip deals in 5 business days. Right. Like, I hear other lenders like, oh, it might take 30 days, 45 days. I'm like, whoa, like my girls, they know what they're doing. They know how to scalable and repeatable processes. Right. So I'm supposed to help cultivate that and give them the power to do that. Right. Because they earned it. So that's kind of an important thing in the firm at Archwest now, is really just collaboration. It's really inclusion.
That happens from the top down. It's very challenging because in this business, you're dealing with things coming from all sides, right? You got the you got the borrowers, you got the brokers, you got the capital markets, you got the other lenders, you've got marketing people, and there's a lot of. Unfortunately, in our sector, it's still very much a lot of guys in the space, and things have become much better. For women, especially young women in our sector. And I'm really proud of that, Ruby on our team started with that private lending thing. And I was like, that's a great idea, because they're And I've noticed a significant improvement in the number of women that get engaged with industry events. And I love that. But what's fascinating to me is that at the same time, though, there are very few women C-level executives.
Yes.
And so I'm really glad that we're able to talk. I'm speaking to someone that is a C-level executive, but also so young, which is cool. Thank you. Which is really cool.
I like this conversation. I like.
Well, listen, it's not. Most of the folks are, they've been in the game for a long time, and I think it's pretty cool that you were given an opportunity and you took it. And I'm sure it was hard.
It was hard. Yeah.
That must have been so.
It still is hard, right? Yeah. We want to be the biggest. We want to be the best. Yeah. We want to, serve. We want to provide financing. We want to be a really good capital provider. I'm still on a lot of these meetings. I'm still sourcing and being on the broker meetings. I want to be as much involved as possible. And my kind of tactic has always been lead by example, right? Really get in the trenches. Like I said, like really do the work. But it's been really hard. Like certainly like my life decisions about, I'm married, I don't have kids. Those are things that you have to think about when you're trying to grow your career. Like I am putting this job as the top priority and making sure that it's running well. And I know that comes with pros and cons for sure. Right. Yeah.
And I did a bunch of short-term content at Apple, AAPL. Okay. Forgive me, Linda, AAPL last month, and I read a quick little interview with Eric Abramovich, and the thing that we came away with, like, sacrifice. No wins without sacrifice, and and they've grown immensely, and I really appreciate that sentiment from him. And what I'm hearing is the same sentiment from you, and I think it's important. Like, I've sacrificed a lot to be here where I am today too. And you guys have also, interestingly enough, though, kept the band together, right? Yep. And you're sacrificing together as a team, which is also a really, really rare phenomenon.
Yes.
After an exit, usually folks get, picked up by different firms. Right. They move, they lateral. there's NDAs, there's non-competes, and like
Yes.
talk about getting that band back together, because
we had that. We had non-competes, we had all that stuff. But the one thing I could say about the entity that bought us, Redwood Trust, is it's run by the best people,
no, they're
the
fantastic.
nicest people. Oh, they're just
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
I always think about
And they've really
the
elevated
president.
our space too. They really have.
I mean, fantastic. The president of Redwood, when we were departing 5 Arch and starting Archwest, he was handwriting cards of appreciation to people. And I still have mine. Like, he was handwriting like thank yous to closers. And it was just really a testament to who he was as a person and how he ran things. So it was really smooth, because we choose to work with people who are long-term relationship people. And so this is such a small industry. Don't you feel like this industry is so tiny? Like,
I have trouble calling it an industry sometimes.
Yeah.
I call it a sector lately because I want it to seem bigger than it really is.
Yes.
It's tough. It is we're a national industry. People lend all over the country. But, if you look at the events, there's always the same faces and they all know each other.
Yep.
And
exactly.
Industry gossip, it comes around and it flies around. But that was the thing with you guys. Like, it was like, I didn't see it coming. And maybe because I'm not that in tune with it, but I didn't see it coming. And I was like, not only did I not see it coming, when you called me, I was like, wait, really? This is happening?
Yeah.
But number 2, you're telling me right now that you got the band back together. It's the same group of people. It's also the same employees too. You brought the same team back together. Like,
we did. We brought a lot of people in. A lot of people transitioned with us. And then what had happened was they said, wait a minute, you've got Gene, Sean, Tim all together again. Like, I want back in, like, let me come back in. And so we were able to do that. I mean, they know the kind of work we put out and the efficiency we do and the process that we have. We're big process nerds, and we're big collaborators. So every single day you've got underwriters talking to closers, talking to capital markets. And we really listen to the people on our sales team too. The market is tough, right? And they're the ones on the front line. And so when they come back to me and say, Tricia, your requirement for credit pooling is really tough because you want them to have a good credit score, right? But you're hard pulling them.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I mean, I guess that makes sense. And you'll take a look and you'll see like a credit score and you'll see like all the competitor lenders that have pulled in the last 5 months. But then we ding them and say, well, your credit is low. It's like, well, it's because you guys keep hard pulling my credit every time I want a loan. So right. So then we listen to our team and we say, okay, well, how do we improve our process without increasing risk? Soft pull's the same thing. You get to see all the same things. Yeah. And so kind of, that fast, quick decision, we did that in 1 week because our sales team and our broker team, hey, can you, and people love that. So they want to come back to that. The sales people want to come back to that.
How big's the team? Because this sounds like there's a very little bureaucracy between the teams, but that doesn't happen with a big team usually.
Yeah, no, it's not a big team. We have about 20, 25 people right now.
Okay. Decent though.
Yeah, we hired a few sales guys, which is making our team a little bit bigger, but only a few. But you know what? Again, they've been working together for so long.
Right. They know each other's styles.
They know each other. They're like, hey, like Kathy, like, what do you think about this? Or what have you seen about that? And, oh, okay, let's just do it this way. Done.
Right.
A decision is made. They bring it to us.
Here's the question though, because the goal right now is you guys launch this year. You guys want to grow it. And like with growth comes back office growth and adding staff and adding bureaucracy. Like, how do you balance the level of, I guess, camaraderie and collaboration with growth?
It's always over communication. So agreed. I mean, it is. It always is. And so I'm kind of a freak about that. I'm a C-level position, but I literally have a call with my lead processor every single week just to check in on how she's doing.
Right.
Okay, we added a few more salespeople. Are you sure you don't need another junior associate to work under you? Like, how many loans can you do? How fast is it going? Is there a difference between the beginning of the month, the end of the month, quarters? What are you seeing? I talk to them every day. And so it's kind of anticipating it and it's trusting what they need. So, right. So the lead management will say, okay, I can do this many units with the staff that I have. The minute I get to this many units, I'm going to need to add one more person. It's very methodical. And it's over communication and it's listening to what they need and why they need it.
Right.
So, but you're right. The more loans you do, the more small balance pools you do, right? Too.
Yeah. And that's where the opportunity is right now.
That's where the opportunity is, especially from like a rental perspective, right? It's like really hard to do a nice cash flowing deal in California. And, you know, it's California has high loan balance, so that's attractive. So,
right. I hope you're enjoying this episode so far. This episode is sponsored by PrivateLenderLink.com, where investors and brokers find direct private lending companies throughout the United States. Are you struggling to find the right lender for your deals? Private Lender Link offers a unique service to provide private lender recommendations. Over the past 10 years, they have established relationships with many reputable direct lenders and know each company's guidelines. Their platform makes the process to get recommendations very easy. Simply provide details about your loan request by filling out a short questionnaire. A Lender Link professional will review the information and invite a few select lenders to view your loan request. The lenders will reach out to you directly to further discuss the deal and provide a quote. Save yourself a lot of time and effort by leveraging Private Lender Link's knowledge, relationships, and 10 plus years in the industry. Their network includes lenders for commercial real estate, residential investment properties, and small businesses. To get started, visit PrivateLenderLink.com and click the big green button at the top. And I do want to kind of talk more about Archwest and the kind of you guys have launched and talking about, what the objectives are and what you guys are doing these days, because a lot of folks, like when I talk to other folks about Archwest, they're like, yeah, it's just 5Rs 2.0. Like it is, but it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
In the sense that they're scaling it differently, it feels like.
Yeah.
So talk about like what's the objectives of the company right now and what you guys are doing right now, because it sounds like you're already gone national.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And
that was the quickest part.
Yeah.
Because I have such a law background and I love regulatory compliance. I know that sounds really strange, but like that's kind of where my background really flourished was, okay, I need an Arizona mortgage broker license. I don't want to do individuals in Georgia. I want to get a North Carolina registration. I want to get the Tennessee Tilt Act stuff. So like you learn a lot from a decade of working in a national space.
Right.
And so for this time around, I didn't have to do the research. I knew. I was like, this is what I want. I'm going to go get these things. We have a fantastic regulatory compliance lawyer who has really taught me everything that I know. His name is Hayden Richards. And he is just, especially in this, it's not a niche lending space anymore, right? It's really populated. We have a lot of really great competitors. And I wanted to build it quickly and build it efficiently. So in March of this year, we started to build our fix and flip program. And we did it all in 30 days, loan documents, licensing, LOS systems, marketing campaigns, you name it, all of it was done in 1 month, while we were still doing about $30 million of originations the same month. It's a big broker network that we have, a lot of repeat clients, a lot of borrowers. We like to start small, scale it, put it on auto, and then start the next thing. So 30 days ago, a really big firm came to us and said, we really want you to be an approved seller on our our SFR rental platform. So we said, yes, absolutely. Built that in 30 to 45 days, configured our LOS system. Dennis and your firm has helped us so much with scaling our loan documents nationwide. I mean, we're doing batches of approvals every single week. And so, we've done it before. We can scale it. Like this is now you get surprised now and again on things that change, right? Like Nima's email about the default interest in California. That was very interesting. Again, legal background. So when I see things like that, it really intrigues me. I'm like, okay, we need to understand that. What do we do next? What's our strategy? How do we think about it? And Nima's the same way. But sometimes we get surprised a little bit, but hey, like that just comes with the territory of lending, right?
I mean, there's always a random landmine you pops up somewhere, and
right.
it's hard to keep up with all of it, but like it's important. Like, a lot of it's from the legal world and a lot of regulatory background and that kind of, and it goes a long way. To adding it, but also, I mean, from a business standpoint, what's been fascinating to see is like you guys have been weathering the storm. Like it's been interesting. It's, you know, for our audience, this is going to air in early 2023, but we're recording right now in November of 2022. Like we're in the middle of it right now.
We are we are in the middle of it for sure.
And you guys aren't like trying to, you guys didn't, like when you guys launched, I didn't see a lot of times at that time it was still pretty hot and heavy, and it would have been easy just to kind of blow out the marketing budget and just like go to everything. And I didn't see you guys out there a lot.
No, you know, we saw, I would love to say that we always see everything coming. I would love to say that, but the truth of the matter is we're a very observant group. Sean has a very good pulse on the real estate market, and he wanted to grow this firm kind of 30 days in advance. Like he was seeing like, okay, interest rates are going to go up. We don't want to have a portfolio of like really, really low interest rate loans. I mean, we could do it and we could go gangbusters on it, but is that the smartest thing to do? Is that the right decision? And so it was a very prudent course of growth. We stuck with our bread and butter and the things that we knew, which were more of the shorter term deals. And now we kind of have the benefit of being a very good lender that is remaining. I mean, our marketing materials going out there being like, we're not slowing down, like come to us. Like we can be your consistent partner. We're not going to leave you at the loan document table, right? Like we're going to be here. And I think that's built a really good rapport with the clientele that has stayed with us. They're like, you're right. They're not going to leave us hanging. So
and capital markets, really you guys have adjusted to capital markets as it comes, because that was the big pain point. It's like,
that is a huge pain
once
point.
June hit, it was like freak out mode. What the hell did we do?
Yeah.
But a lot of people figured it out, it seems like. And you guys are, you guys use capital markets. So you guys have a balance sheet. You just kind of do a little bit of everything, right? So
yeah, we do it all. Again, just we had a really big, we've learned a lot in capital markets. That was the thing that I loved. And so we were constantly talking to people on the street. What are you hearing? What is your portfolio looking like? We're taking a look at securitizations and seeing like what was being produced. So we're a very methodical group. We do a lot of research before we jump into a product or a market. And so that certainly helped with what we were deciding to do next.
And how is Archwest structured from like do you guys are you guys institutionally partnered with anybody, or are you guys?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So last year when we actually launched the company thinking that we were going to go crazy on really large commercial real estate. And then, so we built we have that system built out, and we absolutely think we would love to get into that probably next year.
It'll come. Next year's the year, I think. Yeah, agreed.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we're ready for it. We have our LOS system, we have our documents, we have everything kind of created for that. But our partners, so we have a minority investment from a company called Aries Management Corporation. So we've been working with them, and kind of grow. They do trust us, and they understand that, they invested in a company with a lot of experience, with a lot of people that kind of know what they're doing in not only good times, but in bad times too.
Right.
So,
you have the benefit of the background and also their balance sheet as well to help, I'm sure.
Yes.
And capital markets background and access and history relationships with that. So, and so when June hit, like, how did you guys react? How are you guys ever able to weather? Because a lot of folks are still trying to solve that problem. They're like, what do I do? What do I do? And then,
we never had an issue. So we just avoided it altogether, to be honest with you. Like there was nothing for us to kind of have to reassess. There was no portfolio that we had to reassess. There were no
you didn't have any loans that we had
to requote.
Price weird or
no.
That's good.
No. So we were very methodical about it. And it is also probably a little bit of luck and timing too, like combined with it as well, because we never really had to go back on anything, which is great.
How soon did you guys react on the rates? Because a lot of folks have still like, I got a lot of phone calls in June. Kevin, should I raise my rates or not? I'm like, my position's always been, what do your borrowers expect?
Yeah.
So if they expect it, it's fine. right?
Yeah. So no, that's very key. So Tim Ganaway he's our chief analytics officer. From probably June until maybe a few months ago, we were trailing the market, not by a lot, just a little bit, because you don't want to be the only lender or the first lender that's kind of increasing all these rates. And these borrowers like, hey, like what's going on? Right. But we want to be safe. Right. So we're not going to not raise it. Right. Yeah. So you just kind of trail it a little bit. And then you get to a point where, just like you said, borrowers just become accustomed to it because they understand that that's where kind of the market was heading. Right. And so it became just a lot more, it just became easier to kind of quell their fears and be like, but don't worry, we're still your partner. We're going to work with you on this. We're going to get through it. But we were checking in with Cap Markets, our sales team, every Friday. And we still have that meeting every single Friday. You never had any
freeze-outs? You're still able to? Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So again, a little bit of luck, a little bit of timing on how we launched things. Right. And we were able to kind of observe in a small scale before we went really big, which was great. So yeah, that's kind of how we did it.
And on the capital market side, were you able, like with your past experience, were you able to kind of go upstream a little bit and access that market, or was it just a more of like you guys just didn't enter into MLPAs that were too restrictive, or like?
Yeah, that's exactly, like from a capital markets perspective, we didn't enter into a relationship that wouldn't understand how we were going to grow, and so we kind of timed it very slowly with a few partners, not with 5 or 6, like with only a couple. Don't overdo it, right? Yeah. Because until I think what is important is when you're trying to build a good product and when you're trying to build a very seamless process, start small, and then scale it. Right. Don't get
and you guys are kind of in that weird, like that middle space where you can like the volatility is not going to hurt you as much.
Yes.
As compared to some of these bigger shops, like they're in a weird place. They're in a weird place because they're Yeah. No,
it's interesting. Cool. And we talk about age a lot too. Like, I wasn't really around when there was a the distress market, right? Yeah. Like we've seen stuff in this real estate cycle that I thought was very interesting. Like COVID was a very interesting time when I was and I was in legal then. So I saw a lot. But it's really interesting to see people kind of who succeeds. And that's the people who are very calm about it. Right. They kind of see past it and they say, okay, here's the 3-step solution and getting it done. Jean's really good at that, right? Seeing a very large scale issue, boiling it down to like 3 simple steps to solve it and working towards those goals. You have to be calm in the space, right? You have to kind of, you have to like make tangible steps to a solution in this space, in my opinion.
Yeah. Level head. Yeah. Right. I agree. I mean, you did see a lot of freak out. And I think this is different from COVID in the sense that COVID was a temporary freeze out on capital markets. This is more of a permanent freeze out until a longer term freeze out. I mean, we're probably looking for another, I'm hoping June of next year, but maybe even longer. Yeah. But like, who knows?
And this is where I think we're still succeeding, is because we've proven that we can manage and operate these types of companies in good times and in bad times, right? That's really important. When I was a lawyer, or it's funny saying that because I still am, but when I was doing a lot of law, I was also doing a lot of workout stuff. So I was drafting forbearance agreements and modifications and all that good stuff. That's such an important part of learning the job, is because you get to help people avoid that situation. Right. And again, it goes back to communication with your investors, with your takeout partners, with your internal team too. It's just about over communication at that point. So
what are you guys working on now? So it's almost the end of the year. We're going into 23. What are you guys working on now? Is there anything that you're excited about?
Yeah, I'm super excited about rental. So we launched it 30 days ago. We've got a couple of products.
Long-term or short-term or both? Or
so we've got a portfolio style 5, 7, 10-year bullet loan, matured loan. And then we've got a 30-year loan that we're advertising right now. Nice. I'm super excited about that. We launched from a marketing perspective a couple weeks ago. Oh, wow. So it's really, and we're really in it. So I'm excited to kind of talk with you when this launches and discuss like what it's been like and, you know, how it grows.
Yeah, I mean that's just because we were at APL last month. We were presenting data, and everyone was kind of surprised because the data was showing that DSCR had stabilized relatively quickly.
Yeah,
it's just a matter of pricing, and so and people were like, "That's not true. That's not true." And then hold on, guys. Portfolios are no longer a thing. It takes a little bit more time for portfolio strategies to stabilize. Expect that later in the year, and here we are, right? So, I mean, it's funny how that kind of mimics, right? The sentiment kind of mimics, and what I'm fascinated to see is how this is received at 7.5% at 8%. It seems to me though that it's being, you know, they're accepting the reality. It is what it is, kind of, and they're having to make the cap rates work. They just have to figure it out.
Right. You know, it's really interesting. I feel like it all goes back down to something that's always really important, which is the housing shortage. Right? Like there's still a deep need of housing creation across this nation. Especially in California, my gosh, like we need so many. Oh my gosh, we need so many units. Like,
we also need pricing is just a little bit too high. Your average house now is $1 million. I mean, what are you going to do with that? You know,
exactly. And I also come to this lending space with a lot of perspective as a person that's, you know, of this generation. Right? My husband and I have been trying to find a house for 5 years. Finally, we got one, but a lot of people in my generation, right? Like they are missing out on first-time home buying. And why is that? Right? It's because there's a lack of housing creation. A lot of it. And also the people in my generation and the next generation, they're kind of thinking about work-life balance a little more than maybe previous generations, and the ability to be mobile and not be a permanent fixture in a certain area or be close to their work per se, because maybe someone's allowed a remote working hybrid kind of situation. That's also changing how people are looking at housing and where they're going to be. Being of that age, I get to kind of bring that kind of narrative to the group and say, look, this is like a real thing that we have to be aware of and thinking about, which is why rentals are so great, because it allows people to do those things. Right. Be a little bit more flexible.
More flexibly, but still live in a home. And that's
a house.
That really is an important thing. And I forgot what her name. The lady from Zonda, when we were at APL, was talking about that. And that seems to be driving the conversation of the millennial generation is the current home buying generation. And they want to rent. They want to rent a home. They want to rent a little bit. They don't want to live in apartments. They want to live in a house.
Right.
They're having families, they're growing, they want to be mobile.
So it's funny because we'll sit in a like an investor meeting and like someone will pull that data and I literally like, yeah, that's me. Yeah. Like that data is a reflection of someone like me. Right. Which is kind of fun to kind of apply yourself into like the numbers.
And that's the interesting part is that the demand, at least in the millennial generation, demand is high, and so that's a good thing. I feel like I think we'll see some help with valuation stabilizing. I think we can use it. I think we can help in the grand scheme of things. But it's going to be interesting because we're worried about that as lenders in our industry. We're worried about how much of a dip are we going to see and how fast and how bad it's going to be.
Right.
We haven't seen anything too crazy just yet, but I mean, and it does make me nervous. It makes me nervous.
Yeah, no, you're right. And you know, I think it's a fun time where the sales team, at least my sales team, who are just like such smart guys, when they talk with the underwriters and we spend 30 minutes talking about the ARV values, right, that we're seeing, they're listening and they understand, because that's a serious thing of measurement, right? These days, like, is it 5% off? Do you think we're 10% off? Like, we talk about that. And we also do that because we want our investors to succeed, and our investors appreciate our feedback too, right? Because like, this is the data that we see every single day. They see it from a personal level. We see it in a little bit of a more portfolio style, so we can actually see like little trends. So I think they actually appreciate that color.
Yeah, I mean, they want to know.
They
right?
want to
From a
know.
data set standpoint, what's the time?
Yeah.
What's the average time on market in this MSA, in this county, in this neighborhood? They want to know that
Yeah.
because that's massively important for them. But
Yeah.
it's so, I mean, the rental program that's a great thing. I'm glad you guys added that.
Yes.
I think it's going to be
We're
a really
excited.
cool thing to do. We're going to have a high demand for that coming into the next year.
We think so too.
And you know, for you personally, are you in the trenches on that as well? You are there? All right.
I am there. I'm literally like helping to evaluate our product cards, reading the language in our loan documents. I am, and you know, I say I, but it's really a team, right? Like we all are doing it every single day. We meet and we discuss like what makes sense. Our head of credit is a really smart guy. He's seen it all. And so I think that's how you succeed. When I talk about like mentorship and when I talk about like how people can grow their career, actually that's kind of what I'm going to be talking about the IMN panel in Scottsdale. It's really hitching your wagon to very smart people and who are like literally the experts in their department. And learn from them. Because
but you have to ask. You have to ask those questions. You have to be willing to ask those questions.
Yes. And you have to be like, just CC me on all that. I will read everything. Like I will put in the work. I will, you know, it's hitching your wagon to those people and then kind of learning from them. And it's okay not to be an expert in everything from an operations perspective, but you have to know what every department goes through in order to really grow a firm, especially in private lending.
Agreed.
So,
I've been wondering about that. So the guys, like, I get the question a lot, like, who can I talk to?
Yeah.
Tell them, well, listen, if these guys are generous with their time, but you're going to have to be willing to ask them the questions that you want to ask, because they're not just going to sit there and twiddle their thumbs and just volunteer to help you. But they're also very generous people. That's one thing I was like, I tell people in our space, like, you'd be surprised at how generous people in the space are. But you also have to be willing to ask and also be respectful of their time, because there's a lot of people that have struggled through the space and built quite a nice business, and they're willing to teach and willing to be mentors. But there's also like this weird, strange, I guess, like vibe about asking. Some people have that weird vibe, like that block about asking for help. And then other folks have the opposite block where they ask for too much help. And they want this mentor to kind of show them everything or give them everything. So like, it's a balancing act. I feel it's very, very tricky to find.
The way that I do it is I try to be super helpful to people that need the help, right? Regardless of whether they're a vendor or where, you know, capital markets provider or whoever it is. And even if we can't do business together, like we'll still give, you know, as much time and help them out and say, oh, I can't help you with that, but you should talk to this person, right? Because this industry is such a relationship focused one. I can't tell you how many times, like, I will literally talk to that person 2 years later, and then we'll be able to do something together. Right. And it's like putting out as much as you're going to take from someone is really important too. You can't always just be the taker, right? Sometimes you have to, you know, really help others, and then it'll come back to you. And I think that's an important thing that I've learned over the last 10 years as well.
So I don't normally ask this question because we have very, very few, and unfortunately this is not by my choosing, but we don't have as many women C-level executives on the show. But when we do, I always want to ask them, like, do you have any advice for, you know, the young women out there right now who are either, you know, who are new to the space, who have recently joined, or kind of making their way up right now? We're talking about mentorship right now. So I want to ask about that because, you know, it's a tough time right now.
It is. Mentorship is really great, right? When you find someone that can help lead the way. But what I tell people, women or anyone who thinks that they, you know, need the help is, have a manager, or really try and get your manager to give tangible steps to your goal. Not only just listening to your goals and saying and trying to get, because mentorship can be one way, right? Like, do this, do that, whatever. But if they're not helping you towards your goal, then you're really not getting there, right? So what I like to do with my team is say, okay, you want to be an underwriter from a processor? That's great. here is your plan that I've laid out for you. Here is your 10 steps that you're going to need to achieve in order to get there. And I'm going to help you every step of the way. And then you're going to have to meet me at each step and each goal. And you and I are going to have to hold each other accountable. Let's talk every month. Let's put something on the calendar every single month until we get you to that goal. So if someone's not setting these tangible steps to get you to where you need to be, you need to make sure that that happens for you. Don't sit around and wait for it.
Actual deliverables and actual milestones
actual
they need to achieve.
Yeah. Yes. Because otherwise it's a great pie in the sky dream.
But you're just talking.
You're just talking. Yeah.
So putting action behind the mentorship, putting action behind the coaching. That's important.
Yes.
Agreed.
And I think it's okay if you're doing it in a respectful way with your manager to say, okay, but can we talk about it every couple weeks? Can we talk about it every month so I can get there?
Yeah.
Right. And for women, especially in management, you have to be okay with growing your team and letting them be very successful. Like I want my team and the women who work for me and the men who work for me and whoever works for me to be as successful as they want to be and be better than me. Mm-hmm. Why wouldn't I want them to be better? It's being okay with other people's successes is also really important. And I think I was very lucky. I had Jean, who was totally okay with me growing and totally okay with me being kind of like brought up because he knew that that would help him in the end too. Right. And he was proud. So partnering up with a mentor like that, that's going to get you to where you need to be. And I think that's like a real piece of advice.
Yeah. I mean, that's not just like, go find a mentor and ask them questions. It's
exactly.
It's easy. You can go to anyone, but there's, that and demanding that, being willing, being brave enough, having the courage to demand that level of attention, right, because the counterparty may not be thinking that way and say, hey, but I bet our audience, especially the young women out there who are listening, like if you took the initiative to say, here's what I want to do with you, here's the plan I want to make, and I want you to help me. Right. I don't think there's anyone out there that would say no to that. Yeah. Not everyone's thinking that way from an execution standpoint, but everyone loves it. Everyone loves high execution. I don't know. And I always tell,
I mean, we're talking about women focus, but I always tell the women in my team, like, don't say sorry. Like, if you're not sorry, like there are little things, right?
I'm dealing with my 5-year-old shit. I'm telling you, stop saying sorry.
Stop saying sorry. Like, it's okay. But sometimes you're so ingrained and trained, like even me, like when I'm on an email, sometimes I will throw in a happy face because I feel like I need to, right? Like, why am I doing that?
Right.
Every single day, you kind of have to sit there and think, you know what? Like my actions are going to speak really loud. I have the best team. I have the best mentors. I'm going to rely on what I know because I know stuff and I'm willing to share it. And so breaking that kind of societal mold of like how women should be every single day, that's something that you really have to tell yourself every single day. Like, it's okay. Don't say sorry. Like, just do it. Do the work. Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
All right. So we're gonna transition to our rapid fire questions. We're gonna close down the show a little bit. So we have the first question. What was your very first job?
My very first job. Do you know the country's best yogurt, TCBY?
There's not a lot of those left. There's not a lot of those left. Yeah.
That was my first job. And I remember going to college at UCI and the yogurt machine broke. And I was able to like take it all apart and like put it back together
in the
again.
Cafeteria?
They erupted and they were all so excited because it broke. I'm like, oh, I got this. And I like took it all apart and like put it back in. They're like, how'd you know that? I'm like, I don't know. I just figured it out.
You worked at a frozen yogurt shop. Was this in high school or like?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Frozen yogurt.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about the business things today. So one of the things I like to ask about is there a business tool that you use that you just cannot live without?
That's really hard because with these days, like Slack, Teams, chat, or all that good stuff, there's so many things. I'm like, can we please pick one? But we did. It's Salesforce with Pardot configuration. We have a best operations analyst, and he kind of built it all into one so that we're just using one system.
No, Salesforce with Pardot. That's a really hard thing to build and use.
Oh, yeah.
And getting adoption too. It's not. We
didn't give anyone a choice. We said this is
a very complex system too.
Yes.
That's cool. That's like the lifeblood of the business. That's your nerve center.
It's the one system.
I like that.
Yeah.
Another question we like to ask is, when you're not out there boss ladying it up out there in private lending world, what do you do in your own personal time for fun?
So my husband and I, we love to like go camping, and he loves to kite surf and go to the beach. And
do you do that too?
Oh no, you don't want to see that. I'm like behind him, like, you go. But all that outdoor stuff, that's really important to us. Mm-hmm. So work-life balance is important. And I think kind of getting yourself out there in nature kind of levels that like perspective. You
guys have to go to? Is there a place?
We live in the Central Coast, so Big Sur or like Montana de Oro, Cayucas, like those are like.
How'd you guys deal with the fires they had a couple years ago back there?
It's tough. It's super tough. I personally think we could talk hours about this, but I won't. I think climate change is going to have a really huge impact on the housing market, and I think it already has. How we see insurance, how we see people like, windstorm coverage, like that's going to be a thing. So,
I mean, with the calamity insurance is already starting to come back, right?
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Makes sense. You have to adapt.
You have to adapt.
You have to adapt. That's cool. I didn't know you were an outdoors person. That's cool.
Yes. Yeah. This is the most makeup that I've done in a while. So
we were just busting Nima's chops for going camping for the first time recently. So like,
first time? Was it at least a tent? Tell me it was a tent.
You borrowed a tent. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good job. Proud of him.
Cool. Well,
awesome.
I love these kind of interviews because we had a good time. I really appreciate you squeezing us in for this. I know
thank you.
Very busy.
No, I appreciate you. Yeah.
And we'll hopefully see you. The next conference you're going to be at is at the IMN show?
Yes, I will be on the Young Professionals panel there.
Oh, fantastic. Well, this is going to air in 2023 for our listeners, but we should make sure we connect about sharing notes about what shows we're all going to be at next year. So
awesome. Love to.
All right. Well, Tricia, thank you so much for joining the show.
Thank you.
And for our listeners, Tricia, is a boss lady over at Archwest, and I'm really happy to have her on the show. And please listen in for the next episode of Lender Lounge with yours truly, Kevin Kim. Thank you very much. Thanks for listening to Lender Lounge with Kevin Kim. I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. If you did enjoy, please leave us a 5-star review on your podcast platform, and be sure to follow our show to be notified of new episodes. If you're on YouTube, don't forget to smash that like button and hit subscribe for more content from all of us here at Jurassic. Lender Lounge with Kevin Kim is available on all podcast platforms. Referrals really help us spread the word, so please send this over to someone you think might enjoy it. See you next time. This is Kevin Kim, signing off.